Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Good morning, everybody. Let's get this. Hold on, let's fix this clock. I forgot to do that. I have to do this real quick. Watch this. I have to go. And now it's fixed. Good morning. How are you guys? Look at this. We are T minus 29 minutes from today's launch. Yeah, let's do the thing that we always do because it's the morning and I haven't woken up at all yet. So we're gonna go before any launch. We're going to go to this little website called called everydayastronaut.com, and then we're going to click on pre-launch preview, and this is going to tell you anything you really need to know about any upcoming launch. So, yeah, just so anytime you're like, hey, I wonder, is this rocket going to land? Is this, how many times has this rocket flown? Or if you're wondering, where's this mission going? Blah, blah, blah. I've got you covered. We just go to everydayastronaut.com. You click on pre-launch previews, and then you have like a whole set of upcoming missions, and you can click on it, and you can learn all about it. So today's launch is a Falcon 9 Block 5 carrying Starlink. So this is subject to liftoff in 28 minutes, and yeah, which will be 8:16 local time. The mission name is Starlink 5. It's the 5th operational Starlink mission. This is going to get really confusing. SpaceX is just starting to call them Starlink now. It's actually like the 6th and a 10th of the 6th, like 4% or whatever Starlink mission, because they did fly 2 Starlink missions once, just like as a test dummies way long time ago, and then they flew one that is not operational. So, but this is like the 5th operational one. So yeah, just keep that in mind, and don't forget Starlink, guys, is basically this will provide the world the ability to have high-speed internet literally anywhere, except for like the very top poles. They're not covering places where there's no one to use the service, but it is like all the way up, basically all latitudes, all the way up, pretty darn far. So it's pretty cool. And I'm excited because if you want to do like off-grid streaming or something like that, this would be a really low latency, really high bandwidth solution. I know they've talked about it being under 100 milliseconds bandwidth, or latency anywhere. Like anywhere, you could be on top of a mountain, you could be in the ocean on a cruise ship, you could be in the desert, you could be whatever. Even in your city where you might not have very good internet. I don't know if sometimes there's like cities that only have one provider option, and so having another provider option would be very nice. And eventually it'll get up to gigabyte speed. So this is awesome for literally anyone living on Earth, and eventually someday living somewhere else too. The launch provider for this, of course, is SpaceX. The customer for this mission is SpaceX because these are their own internal satellites that they developed themselves. This is their own mission on their own rocket, which is very unusual. The rocket is the Block 5 Falcon 9. So this is the final iteration of the Falcon 9. This particular one is booster 1048.5. And the .5 means that this is the 5th time this particular rocket is flying, which is the most. This will break the record currently. And I'm sure only for a little bit. I'm guessing we'll see. Hopefully this year we might see close, not quite 10, but I'll bet we'll see 8-ish or 9-ish if all things go well out of a single block, because it takes them about 2 months to turn around now. So it could potentially reach 10, but I know it couldn't. It's not good. I don't think we'll see 10 quite this year, but they are designed to fly 10 times, and I think SpaceX is excited, especially with their own internal Starlink satellites. I think they're excited to be able to push their boosters further, reuse them more and more and more than what they might do for a customer, because it's their own mission. They don't really care if they might want to push the envelope a little bit more, just like they did with the landing with CRS-20. They were pushing the envelope, expanding the envelope of what they know is possible. So they might be doing that same thing here with the Block 5 boosters, which is awesome. Launch location, this is taking off today from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And don't forget, SpaceX has 2 launch pads down there in Florida. There's LC-39A at Kennedy Space Center, and then there's SLC-40, which is literally only 5 kilometers apart. They're really close. And the SLC-40 is technically on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So just remember, if you see LC, it's at Kennedy Space Center. If you see SLC, that's at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, formerly Air Force Station. The payload mass today, 15,600 kilograms. It's about 34,000 pounds. And this is about as hard as they'll push a Falcon 9 and still be able to recover it. Falcon 9 could carry about double this if they didn't try to recover it, but this is pushing it pretty darn spicy as far as recoverability goes, and that's why these landings, they did miss the last Starlink landing. We're assuming that was a fluke, since that was already the 5th mission of that exact same profile. So it's not like they can't do it. It just experienced apparently had the wrong wind data, and therefore is trying to compensate. I'm assuming opposite of what the actual wind was doing, and not just like ground winds, but think about the upper atmospheric winds. The booster and the trajectory has to take into account some of those upper altitude winds, even though they might be minute. Still, by the time you're talking about something that's 600 kilometers downrange, you need to make sure you're just absolutely on the nose of that stuff. Will they be attempting to recover the first stage? Yes. And it'll be 628 kilometers downrange on SpaceX's, of course, I Still Love You drone ship. Huzzah. Will they be attempting to recover these fairings? Yes. SpaceX will be trying to recover both halves of the fairings. Both fairing ships are out there hoping to catch these fairings coming from space. Don't forget, the fairings eject at about 3 minutes or so. And at that point, they're traveling at, I don't know, 5-ish thousand kilometers an hour. They're 120 kilometers in altitude or something like that. They're falling. So, and metric for those of us metrically impaired, like 3.5 or 4,000 miles an hour, about 70 miles in altitude, and hundreds of miles downrange. That's how far and fast those fairings are going. So trying to being able to catch them precisely with a boat is still something that's really cool. And so far only been done 2 or 3 times as far as actually catching one in the air. But they are okay. They've been okay with retrieving them out of the water, including these. So are these fairings new? No, both fairings were recovered from the water by Go Searcher and Go Navigator after the first non-operational Starlink. So that was, I think, May of last year. So they're okay to try to reuse them, but I think it's just a lot easier to reuse them and a lot less refurbishment if they just catch them. So they just keep trying, and hopefully they'll get it nailed down better and better. This will be the first time a booster has been flown 5 times. 83rd flight of a Falcon 9, 51st booster landing, hopefully, and the 34th reflight of a booster, 6th flight for SpaceX in 2020. And don't forget, at the 83rd flight, this will officially make it surpass the Falcon 9. Or, sorry, not the Falcon. This will make it surpass itself. It'll make it surpass the Atlas V, which currently has 82 flights. So kind of exciting because we're seeing a lot of flights out of this baby. And here, if you want to see a graphic of this, we do have this up by Jeff Barrett. And let's see, this article today was written by Alex Crouch. So everyone say thank you to Alex for putting this article together. We now have a nice team of helpful individuals who have been helping make sure that these articles stay up to date and just on top of them all. So let's hear a real quick thanks in general for all the people that have been helping at everydayastronaut.com. It helps offload some work for me so I can work. Yesterday I spent 12 hours editing 4.5, 5, not quite 5 minutes of animations for a video that it will be done this week. It will be done this week. I've been working on it for way too long. It's my video about the environmental impact that rockets have on our air. And it's a good question, and I dove into it way too deep, as I tend to do, way too deep. And yesterday I had to animate 38 million pixels, or like blobs, and then a different number. I don't want to spoil it for you. And my computer just hated it, so I had to get smart about it and like eventually make a clone of it and do this stuff. But yeah, moral of the story is my computer hated me, and it took me all day to do 5 minutes of video editing. But it'll be super worth it. Eric W asks, what do I use for animations? I'm an After Effects guy for animations. This video doesn't have a ton of it does. No, it's got some After Effects. It's not as much as like, the Aerospike video had a lot of After Effects. The full flow stage combustion Raptor video, that has a lot of After Effects in it. This one's like kind of, it's more infographic because it's a lot of infographics. So, yeah, let's see. Wait a minute. Oh my. Oh, Casper. So someone in our Discord, Casper in our Discord channel says, posts a screenshot. Why'd you do this? And how, actually? Say, okay, everyone, I'm going to try and squeeze out the pollution video before I leave next Tuesday. In order to do so, I could really use your help finding these numbers. Please help me find these numbers. Please put notes, links, sources in the table. This was on October 14th, 2019. So it's officially been over 6 months since I've been working on this video. It was the absolute rabbit hole. Wait, I should probably just throw that up. Actually, you guys got to see this. This is bad. Jeez, is this my version of Elon time? Yeah, definitely. Look at this. Hold on. Oh man. Yep, that's Elon time for you. That's my Elon time. Oh geez. Well, anyway. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But, I tried squeezing out other videos in between then, obviously. But it's really been a long time since I've been able to really, just actually crank out this video because it's really long. It's about 55 minutes long. So, all right. Mouse Mac, pointy end up, flaming end down. Hopefully it will launch this time. Yes. Go Team SpaceX and Team Space. Can we get that on? Ooh, that would be a fun shirt. Because I am definitely #Team Space. I think it's important that all of us are excited about the work that everyone's doing, regardless of, I decided, of course, I think it's okay to have a favorite company, but I'm definitely in like full blown. I think it's cool to cheer for everybody, all the countries working on space endeavors, all the companies working on space endeavors. Everyone's kind of doing it in different ways, and just keep that in mind that it's fun to cheer each other on because that benefits all of humanity. So why would you cheer against anyone working to put humans in space and to expand our knowledge of the universe? So yeah, what was so I was going to tell you guys something. I don't even remember what it is. Oh yeah, I had a lot of people asking about the launch, or basically the scrubbed and aborted launch on Sunday. And if for those of you that weren't around in like the early days of when SpaceX was working on their, it was technically kind of like their version 1.1. It was their full thrust version of the Falcon 9 when they first started putting cryogenic propellant. I think it was 2016 was the year that they were really, it was the first year they were doing super chilled propellant. So super chilled, they chill the liquid oxygen even more for a little additional performance and density, and they also chill the RP1 a little bit more, down to the point where it's almost kind of like right before it turns sludgy is about how cold they get it. And they had some teething problems. I think it was like SES 6 or 7 or something was on the pad. I swear they got to the point where they had ignition like 3 times at least twice on the pad, and they backed out. So it's totally normal. Like a lot of people were freaking out maybe if they hadn't seen, SpaceX launch for a while, or I guess if they haven't been watching this stuff for a long time. But that stuff happens. Like it's not a big deal. That's why there's launch clamps. That's why they fire the engines. And people were saying like, well, isn't this saying like how reliable can it really be? Well, or like, what if there's 33 of these engines on Starship and stuff? Well, there's 9 already. People had doubts about 9 ever being reliable on a Falcon 9, and you guys didn't even know this was an option, some of you, that a rocket could go out there, fire up, and then it could be shut down. So this is normal. This is part of the teething, and this is part of, it's just honestly not a big deal. We'll just put it that way. So, well, ain't that nice on YouTube wants me to turn on closed captions. You can't do it live unless you have someone doing it for you. So unfortunately, there's no closed captions available while live unless someone out there has the ability to transcript live. Yeah. Don't worry, Discord, we'll get to it. I should mention, if you want to join our Discord channel and you want to hang out with us during the time when a lot of us are probably looking for more social interactions, you can become a Patreon member going to patreon.com/everydayastronaut, where you can join access to our exclusive subreddit, our Discord, exclusive live streams. When I get this stupid video done, it'll be time for me to do the monthly live stream. I do one for all patrons, and then I do another one for our pilot tier or above. That one, the pilot tier and above, we get a little more nitty gritty with behind the scenes details. So yeah, those are a lot of fun. I really enjoy those because I kind of treat, the people that help me be able to do what I do, I treat them as producers. They get a say in what I do next. And it's really exciting. People are asking what's in the boxes. I've talked about this last time. That's a computer that I haven't had time to set up. And I also got stuck in Florida for 4 weeks because my car didn't work. And then they had to get me a new one, and now it's back. If you guys want to hear all about my car fiasco, so I have a Performance Model 3, and I had a little bit of a fiasco. If you want to hear about that, we don't want to talk about that on air here. I will be definitely giving a final update on it on the podcast that I do each week with 2 other YouTubers called Our Ludicrous Future. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and do that. Definitely subscribe here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast. It's Our Ludicrous Future. I normally cover space news each week, so if you're always saying, like, Tim, we want more, like, why aren't you doing as many videos? Because I'm working on hour-long documentaries these days. I don't know why. I promise my next video won't be an hour long. I'm going to be doing a video. I'm going to be cranking out a lot of videos because there's going to be a lot of people at home looking for new content. But if you want more just easy to digest, like your weekly news from me, Our Ludicrous Future. It's hard to spell. Ludicrous or something. I don't know. Our Ludicrous is how I have to say it in my head in order to spell it right. Easton Manning, hey Tim, did Tesla cover your water damage? Yes, of course. And it wasn't actually, I don't know if it was ever deemed as water damage. I drove through some rain and some puddles for a block, but they never actually said water damage, so I don't actually know what the real root cause was other than the high voltage battery pack needed to be replaced. Christoph Sumney, could you co-host some future live stream with Kevin from Space Eccentric? It would be cool. That would be cool. I just have no idea how we do that unless we're in person. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to get Kevin out to a launch someday. I'm working on some things that would allow that. Hopefully, I could definitely bring him on with my press credentials, I think, someday for a launch. And it'd be fun to co-host with him because Kevin's a great guy. Night Fox, 5th launch of this booster. Looking forward to another great live stream. Thanks for doing this. You are welcome. I just realized the desktop audio might be too loud. Sorry. I forgot. Oh, I'll go back a little bit. So just to make sure, because I don't know how long I've been talking about that. Guys, geez, settle down. I'm sorry. I wish there was a way that I could self-monitor on here. Okay, so Easton, just to in case none of you heard any of that, I do a podcast every week called Our Ludicrous Future. I'll talk all about what happened to my car in a lot more depth because it's not necessary for this venue here, right? Let's see. And then, and Christoph, I did say I would love to co-host with Kevin sometime, and I think I'm going to try to get him some press credentials with me sometime to come out to a launch, and maybe we could do a little co-hosting there. It'd be really fun. Night Fox, 5th launch of this booster. Looking forward to another great live stream. Thanks for doing this. You are welcome, Night Fox. Thanks for always being around. Night Fox has been around a long time. Now you guys are saying you can't hardly hear the music. Yes, I did miss Our Ludicrous Future last week. I'm sorry. I was literally had been driving all day, all week. So we'll talk about that. David Wilson, Starlink factory tour. Will the event slow production? And SpaceX is live. I would love to do a Starlink factory tour, of course. I mean, whatever. If SpaceX will let me do anything, I'll take them up on it because obviously I'm excited about quite literally everything they're working on. So yeah, I would love to do either a SpaceX Starlink or in a few months when Starship's kind of more hidden behind a bunch of tents and we don't quite know what's going on. I would love to do a tour of the Starship factory and actually get a sense of what all they have hidden behind all those tents. It'd be awesome. But there's a lot of things we have no idea already. Cyrano, when you build rockets better than you build cars. Hey, there's over 1 million Teslas on the road now. I just happened to get one that didn't like to be a car for a little bit. But it's all good now. Alessandro, while Starship tanks use pressure to increase strength, the nose cone will just be an empty steel can. How will it withstand aerodynamic forces? Well, Alessandro, it's just like how, I mean, all you do is you make it a little thicker. You can add some internal bracing and internal ribbing. Just like, the fairing is an empty, unpressurized bit of carbon fiber and aluminum, basically. So it's definitely not out of the question to be able to have an unpressurized hunk of steel. Like I said, it'll just mostly have to probably be thicker and have some extra structural support. And then, of course, because it tapers up, it has a nice, strong top on it. We'll get back to the rest of them in a little bit. It's time to listen.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, March 18th, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Welcome back to SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 6th Starlink mission and our 6th mission overall this year in 2020. If you joined us on Sunday morning, you know that we had a standard auto abort triggered right before liftoff. At SpaceX, we intentionally hold down the rocket prior to liftoff to ensure engines reach correct power levels. On Sunday morning, we had an out-of-family engine reading, which caused an automatic abort. Typically, we would try again the next day, but today was the first available day on the range, so here we are. As a reminder, today we're launching a set of 60 Starlink satellites. Starlink is designed to provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote or rural areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. Today's mission will also be the first time we are flying a booster for the 5th time. The most recent flight of this booster was our second Starlink mission back in November. Just like our first stages, we are also starting to reuse our fairings. Today we're flying a reused fairing which previously flew on our first Starlink mission. With that, all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this morning.
Hello, my name is Michael Andrews and I'm a supply chain supervisor here at SpaceX. And this is our Falcon 9, vertical once again at Launch Pad 39A down at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle, the part of the vehicle that looks to be covered with soot, is our reflown first stage. This first stage uses its 9 Merlin M1D engines to power the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere out to the edge of space. And today we'll be attempting to recover that first stage again, actually for the 5th time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which you can currently see. It's stationed about 350 nautical miles northeast of the Cape. Above that first stage is our black interstage band. It connects the second stage at the top, which will carry our 60 Starlink satellites to a deployment altitude of 440 kilometers above the Earth's surface. From there, they will be deployed and use their individual propulsion systems to move up to their operational altitude of 550 kilometers. The Falcon 9 you see on the pad has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes. As a reminder, we use a mixture of rocket-grade kerosene, known as RP1, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, known as LOX, to power the Falcon 9. Currently, our RP1 is nearly fully loaded on the first stage, and it is 100% loaded on the second stage. LOX loading, however, is still underway on both stages, and that will actually continue to be topped off right until the last minute of our countdown. And at the very top is our stack of 60 Starlink satellites. They're safely enclosed inside that 17-foot diameter payload fairing. It's the pointed cone on the very top of the rocket. And like we've attempted in our past couple launches, we'll be attempting again today to recover the fairing pieces again with our 2 recovery ships, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. They're currently positioned in the North Atlantic Ocean off the coast of North Carolina. In terms of weather conditions today, we do have a few scattered cumulus clouds, but nothing gating us from today's launch. Winds, both at ground and altitude, are nominal. The Air Force range is prepared to support today's mission. So with that, our vehicle, our Starlink satellites, the weather and range are all looking green for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now.
As I mentioned at the top of the webcast, today's launch will be the first 5th flight of a Falcon 9 booster, and if we land it successfully, it will mark the 51st recovery since we started landing our boosters back in December of 2015. Reusability is core to our mission here at SpaceX, which brings me to our efforts underway in Boca Chica, Texas, where we are building and testing Starship, our next generation spacecraft. If you joined us Sunday for our first attempt of this mission, we shared an update on Starship and the progress that the teams in Boca Chica are making. The local team has executed a variety of tests designed to push the limits of the vehicle, and the site continues to change daily as production ramps up. We have a series of upcoming static fire and short flight tests with our serial number 3 test article, and longer flights with serial number 4, but ramping up our Starship and Raptor production line is what matters most. The design goal for Starship is 3 flights per day on average, which equates to roughly 1,000 flights per year at greater than 100 tons per flight. This means every 10 ships would yield 1 megaton per year to orbit. This is a significant effort, and we are looking for highly skilled engineers and welders to help us make this a reality. If you're interested in joining the team, please take a look at spacex.com/careers.
We're currently T-minus 4.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of its countdown. Back at T-minus 7 minutes, our engine chill process began. This is where we allow a small amount of that super chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin engine turbo pumps prior to the full flow of liquid oxygen into the vehicle. You have to realize that our RP1 is coming in at about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but that liquid oxygen is less than negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. This engine chill helps us avoid any kind of thermal shocks to our system. Liquid oxygen is also what's creating the white clouds you see around Falcon 9. We continue to load that super chilled LOX into the stage just before liftoff, but when that LOX comes into contact with the ambient air around it, it creates those clouds that you see because of boiling. And right below the fairing is our cradle. It's those arms that hold the vehicle in place. They just opened up at around T-minus 4.5 minutes. And right now, the transporter erector, that vertical truss structure, is starting to slowly retract a few degrees. It may be hard to see, but guaranteed this retraction is enough for Falcon 9 to clear the pad. In terms of propellant, the first and second stages, when you add up that kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen, it's 1 million pounds of propellant. That vehicle will finish prop loading at T-minus 2 minutes, with the first stage LOX being at 100% full. And the last call out you'll hear before go launch is at T-minus 1 minute. You'll hear that Falcon 9 is in startup mode. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Our Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is still looking good and the range is green for launch, so all that's left to do is listen in to the last few minutes of our countdown.
I think this is a good time to do, we have confirmation here that the pointy end is up and the flamey end is down. We know this rocket had its flamey end down because we've already seen it light its engines once. So yeah, some interesting tidbits there. Like I said, they kind of were doing the normal thing. That one engine didn't have a proper reading. It's really it's hard to really read into that too much. Because like I said, I mean, it could be a number of things. It could have just been a sensor issue. But the cool thing is, this vehicle, they are so familiar with it, I'm pretty sure they could probably swap out an engine in between now and Sunday if they had to. I think this vehicle, they're just so familiar with it. That's what happens when you fly a vehicle over and over and over. Is your engineers, the technicians, they get really familiar with the hardware. They get familiar with the procedures. Things just become a lot easier than doing it, 2, 3, 4 times a year or once a year or something like that. Imagine, if a rocket only flew once a year and you had to swap the engines out or, do something. They probably, wouldn't have engines available. Now is also the good time to remind you that right now what we're seeing is they're basically topped off. All of the liquid fuel, liquid oxygen is full in the vehicle, and you're now seeing them kind of vent it. Again, if you were to go up and touch this rocket right now, it'd be so cold, your hand, you'd probably just freeze to it, especially in the top half of each of those tanks. That is where the liquid oxygen is stored. Like he said minus 300-ish degrees Fahrenheit. It's about minus 200 degrees Celsius. I think 207 degrees Celsius is exactly how cold they chill. They're super chilled liquid oxygen. And of course, when liquid oxygen warms up, because the air is a lot warmer than that on the outside air here, what happens is liquid oxygen, of course, gases and becomes, a gas. And when it does that, here we go. It expands a lot, and therefore it has to be vented. So that's what we're seeing is the venting. But here we go. Let's listen in here. Final 30 seconds. See if we're in startup mode. So hopefully she goes off today.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Go. Finally. Not finally. It only had one scrub. That's not that big of a deal. It feels like it's been I guess it's only been about a week.
It's T plus 40 seconds, and we've just had liftoff of our Falcon 9 vehicle, taking our Starlink payload to its targeted deployment orbit. We are now throttling down and throttling back up in preparation for max Q, which is coming up here in about 10 seconds or so. Max Q is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle sees throughout Ascent. So this is the largest structural load that the vehicle will see. Awesome. Should hear that call out in about 5 seconds.
Maximum aerodynamic pressure.
And there's that call out for max Q, confirmation that we've just passed through max Q. Coming up in about a minute, we will have 3 events in rapid succession. The first of which being main engine cutoff, or what we call MECO. This is where all 9 of our M1D engines shut off and slow the vehicle down for the following event, which is stage separation. And that's when the first stage separates from the second stage. And then finally, the lighting of our second stage MVAC engine, which we call SES-1, or second engine start 1. Now, if you've been following our Starlink missions, you know that we've reduced the number of burns on the second stage for these missions from 2 burns down to just 1 single burn. This allows the second stage to provide 70% of the velocity needed for this mission, which allows the first stage to use less fuel and thus making first stage recovery much easier. So today we will again only be doing 1 burn of that second stage engine. Again, coming up in about 10 seconds are those 3 events: MECO, stage separation, and SES-1.
Kind of missed that. Well, I want to hear that again. There's MECO.
MECO 1. Stage separation confirmed. And back ignition.
And there we've just had MECO and stage separation. That stage separation confirms the successful 5th use of our first stage booster. And you can see on your right screen that second stage MVAC engine lighting up and taking that second stage to its targeted orbit. And we're just a few seconds away from fairing deploy. Again, this fairing was used once before on our very first Starlink mission.
Bye-bye.
And there is the visual confirmation of fairing deploy. So this means that we've successfully reused this fairing. So now let's see if Miss Tree and Miss Chief can catch those fairing halves today. We likely won't have that live view since fairing touchdown will happen past the conclusion of this morning's webcast, but stay tuned to our social media for updates later this morning.
Stage 2 is on a nominal trajectory.
That one camera is so overexposed. Weird. Wonder why that happened. So far, everything's looking
Acquisition
good.
of signal, Bermuda.
It's normal to see little bits of ice, liquid chunks of frozen oxygen and chunks like that falling off. That's normal. Those are, don't forget, you know, the vehicle has...
For those of you just joining us, good morning and welcome. We just had a successful liftoff of our Falcon 9 about 4 minutes ago. There's a lot going on right now. On the right-hand side of your screen, our second stage. Its Merlin vacuum engine is currently burning and will continue to do so for a few minutes. It's carrying 60 Starlink satellites for eventual payload deploy. But we're going to focus the next few minutes on the left-hand side of the screen with our first stage. Currently, right now, after stage separation, that first stage is boosting, still gliding up without any engine power. It's hitting apogee just about now, and for the next few seconds, it's going to start to free fall down to the Earth's surface for an attempted first stage recovery on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean.
Sweet. So, yeah, you'll notice...
As our first stage reorients itself, we're going to prepare for the first of 2 engine burns on that first stage to aid our recovery, the first of which is coming up in about 90 seconds. It's known as our entry burn. We fire 3 of the 9 Merlin engines in the opposite direction the way we're heading. We do this in order to slow down the vehicle about 25% before we hit the dense part of the atmosphere. Not performing this burn would put unnecessary strain on our first stage.
I love that view of the booster. Now don't forget, this booster is 45 meters tall. It's 150 feet tall, basically. And we're looking down it as it's about to be, it's going on an arc like this, so it's beginning to re-enter the atmosphere here pretty
We're just
soon.
at about T+6 minutes. We're a little more than 45 seconds away from that engine burn. It only lasts about 10 seconds. And although our first stage only takes a few minutes to get from its apogee down to the Earth's surface, our 2 fairing halves takes much longer. Please stay posted with our social media for updates on those recoveries.
Not only do they deploy later and higher and faster, but they also are lighter, so it takes them longer to fall through the atmosphere. a lot longer. Because think about a pencil, falling through the atmosphere, like the booster versus
We're
like
about 15 seconds away from that entry burn. We're
sheet
going
of
to
paper.
wait for that visual confirmation the burn started and call out that that engine burn was successful.
Chunk of ice. On that first stage, you can see something flew off. That's, again, there's stuff. Anything that's within the camera frame has to have come from the vehicle because its relative velocity is...
Stage one,
entry burn startup.
There we go, entry burn.
Stage 2 continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
Oh, I was confused by that white cloud.
Stage 1, entry burn shut down.
Now it's guiding itself.
Our entry burn has just completed. The next step is our landing burn. It's about 90 seconds from now. In terms of velocity reduction, with the remaining velocity, the denser part of the atmosphere actually slows our Falcon 9 by 80%, and the landing burn achieves just that last bit of reduction down to 0.
That's free delta V change. Matthew Duggar says the
And although
Griffins
we're
are normal
focused on
coffee
first stage
table
recovery
size.
at the moment, at T plus 9 minutes, a little bit less than that, our second stage, its engine will cut off, will then confirm it's in good orbit, and will then begin the preparations for payload deploy.
The grid fins, I'd say, are bigger than a pretty normal coffee table. They're pretty close to like it's kind of a smaller dinner table. You could easily fit
Starting terminal guidance.
4
We're about 10
people
seconds
around
away from
one
that landing
to eat
burn
at.
call out. We'll sit tight and see if we can get any feed of that event.
It wobbled. It's all right.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
It did wobble, but that's okay. It probably just means that they had more of an attitude correction to do aerodynamically than the propulsive.
We're still
maneuvers.
waiting on call out and confirmation for that first stage, but that's our secondary mission. Right now we'll focus on our primary mission with that second stage and our Starlink satellites. We're waiting for that confirmation of second engine cutoff.
No drone ship footage.
VOC go on.
Really? So normally
Our
by
cutoff
now,
has completed. We're now waiting for confirmation of good orbit before we begin payload deploy.
dang it! Did they lose another booster? No. Crap.
Expected loss of signal.
So we've achieved that good orbit for our
Expected
second
acquisition
stage,
of signal
but we're not in the right
Newfoundland.
position in that orbit yet. Second stage is now going to coast in this orbit for a few minutes. During this time,
Orbital
you're going to
insertion is
see
nominal.
the second stage is going to start to spin along its central axis. This gives the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out over time after they deploy. Think of it as if you were hanging on the edge of a merry-go-round and you jumped off and it slings you out. We use this natural deployment, and it prevents us from having to install complex and heavy separation mechanisms on each and every satellite. So while we wait for that position to be achieved, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll return at T plus 13 minutes, 45 seconds.
Okay, that means we have 3 minutes to figure out what went wrong. So first thing I want to hear about is they mentioned really quick right before Miko about that they're only going to be doing a single burn on the second stage, and it looks like that's what they're doing, a single burn. Normally do that 1 second transient burn with the second stage. So this means that they would have to do more of a lofted trajectory. So let's listen in here and see if we can't figure out. Let's see, Miko. I want to hear what she had to say because this might tell us why it seems like they lost
One
this.
single burn.
Oh.
This allows the now if you back engine, which we call stage, and then finally the lighting engine shut off and
Okay.
off, or what we call Miko. This is where all 9 of our M1D engines shut off and slow the vehicle down for the following event, which is stage separation. And that's when the first stage separates from the second stage. And then finally, the lighting of our second stage MVAC engine, which we call SES1, or second engine start 1. Now, if you've been following our Starlink missions, you know that we've reduced the number of burns on the second stage for these missions from 2 burns down to just 1 single burn. This allows the second stage to provide 70% of the velocity needed for this mission, which allows the first stage to use less fuel and thus making first stage recovery much easier. So today we will again only be doing 1 burn of that second stage engine.
Well,
again, coming up in about 10 seconds.
That's funny because I think now we're officially at probably likely 2 missions now in a row where the first stage was unable to land. So, man, what is going on? It's weird that she says make it easier for the second stage to land, but normally, if you were to make it so the second stage, has only 1 burn, it means you do have to take a lot more lofted trajectory, which I don't know. Let's also take a look real quick. We have another minute or so. Let's take a look at that re-entry burn. So it's normal. So notice how wonky it gets almost right away. Big, pretty drastic roll maneuver.
Our entry burn has just completed. The next step is our
But it
landing.
stabilizes.
It's about 90 seconds from now. In terms of velocity,
I think people are going to start being conspiratorial about little pieces of ice, because look at this one. So far, the boosters that have all failed to land have had like ice chunks like this fly towards the camera, large, significant chunks of ice. Look at this. So this is just totally, like that type of stuff. That stuff happens all the time. Like this booster is basically covered in a sheet of ice because of the liquid oxygen. And there's just purges and things like that all the time. So you can see here, it's normal for the actual entry burn to have a slightly different trajectory, because they can do a lot of things in this maneuver. They might not always face straight retrograde during this propulsive reentry. And then afterwards, they do want to change their glide slope, so it utilizes more of the fuselage to actually slow down and guide. So it can be normal to have this portion after engine cutoff to see kind of a drastic swoop, but so I don't know if that's anything that had to do with it. But shoot,
in terms of velocity reduction,
man, that's too long.
Successfully separated from the second stage, but unfortunately we did get confirmation that we were not able to land that first stage today. We are obviously disappointed, but our primary mission on second stage is still on target to drop our Starlink satellites to their deployment orbit. One quick update, as many of you know, we've been running a number of tests to reduce the reflectivity of these Starlink satellites on their way to orbit. The first of these tests involve using paint to darken portions of the satellite. Preliminary results show a notable reduction, but we have a couple other ideas that we think could reduce the reflectivity even further. The most promising being a sunshade that would operate in the same way as a patio umbrella or a sun visor, but for the satellite. The sunshade option is slated for a future Starlink launch, and all of these efforts are ongoing and will continue to report results back as we receive them. We're now coming up on deployment of our Starlink satellites, so let's listen in for that call out. We should be able to see separation live, so we'll wait for that live view.
Dang it.
Payload separation confirmed.
No, and then it's right during a place of no downlink. They need Starlink up there to be able to
So we did get confirmation of deployment, and there is that live view. So you can see on your screen the satellites are slowly separating away from the second stage, and over the next few weeks they will distance themselves from each other and eventually use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their final orbit.
And with that successful deployment, that brings our webcast to a close for today. To recap our mission, we had a successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Kennedy Space Center at 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time. We had a successful separation of that first stage from the second stage. Unfortunately, we did not recover that first stage for another launch, but as you can see, 60 healthy and operational Starlink satellites are on their way to their intended orbits. It's definitely been an exciting launch today. We want to thank the 45th Space Wing for range safety and the FAA for licensing today's launch. And we'd also like to thank you, all of our viewers, for tuning in. Please follow our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. Until the next time, please take care and have a great day.
Shoot. Man, That sucks. That's 2 Starlink missions in a row now that have failed to land. Is that correct? But we do need to remember successful primary mission. The actual mission that the rocket is intended to do, like every other rocket, is to put the payload in space into its proper orbit. And that happened, and that's good to go. So that's good. It's just sad that these days it's news when the first stage doesn't land. So I'm just shocked, and maybe they'll recover fairings. Who knows? Fingers crossed. Maybe we can at least get some of those fairings back. Because don't forget, those fairings are several million, $2 or $3 million a fairing half. There's 2 halves of them, of course. And so, that can help recover. But it does stink. I'm sure they had other missions lined up for this booster, basically, So now they pretty much have to, yeah. Let's go back and look at it one more time here. I'm going to scrub through, and then I'll bring it up for you guys. See if we can see anything abnormal. But everything looked, pretty normal. I did notice that during the actual landing burn,
6 minutes. We're a little more than 45
notice
seconds away
it seems
from
like the landing burn is fighting the grid fins a little bit. And maybe that's just...
And although our first stage only takes a few minutes to get from its altitude down to the Earth's surface, our 2 fairing halves takes much longer. Oh, please stay posted with our social media for updates on those recoveries.
It didn't want to die the other day, so that's why it shut down on the pad.
We're about 15 seconds away from that entry burn. We're going to wait for that visual confirmation the burn started and call out that engine burn was successful.
That chunk of ice. I know everyone's going to be on Twitter in the next 10 minutes. Hey, what was this? UFO? Or did a part fall off? No.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So notice, let's see here. It's a pretty big pitch over maneuver right there already. That's...
continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
Although there it looks like it's dead solid now.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Our entry burn has just completed. The next step is our landing burn.
Hopefully we learn what happened. It looks... That does look like the grid fins really were having a hard time. Kind of like... Let me look at... Let's go back to CRS-16. That was another one that had a similar thing. Let's see here. This was in December of 2018. This was another one that had a failure during the landing sequence. December 2018? Yeah. Now watch what happens as soon as it does the entry burn. Things are looking good. And then after the entry burn, that's when those grid fins really have a lot of atmospheric bite to them. And that's when the grid fins pretty much become, that's when they do all their work. And of course, a lot of that is to perform some kind of dogleg maneuver and also to help scrub off more velocity. Because the more horizontal velocity you actually scrub off, the more time you have in the atmosphere for the atmosphere to slow you down too. So they intentionally kind of do this, you can see it in the right side screen, how much they try to drag and almost like drifting, letting the tail hang out. And that basically helps the vehicle slow down. Now you'll notice with this mission, it starts to get wonky really quick. And it gets really wonky. So this was 2 years ago, and what they found out was the grid fins stalled right there. They totally got locked in place. And what happened is the hydraulic pump that steers the grid fins had a bubble in it basically, and it stalled. And then they cut the feed there, but we know it splashed down later on. Let me go to that real quick. So who knows what exactly happened? It did not seem to be that same thing, because that clearly stalled. Here, I'll show you the landing. I think my friend Das Valdez, who does stuff, K-Space Academy, and also, let's see here. And then he also does a lot of stuff with NASA Spaceflight. Has a really good view of the landing, too. Let's see. And SpaceX also ended up releasing that video later on. Let's see here. Right now we got an ad playing, so I'll wait until it's done. Okay, let's get to the landing part.
Oh. Sonic booms is the thing you will see is the engine.
Okay, hang on, check this out.
Wow. Way up there. There it is.
So,
Should be able to track that all the way in. All right, this is the Falcon 9 doing its entry burn, come back into the atmosphere. All right.
they were able to actually track it pretty darn well.
Now, it will have a contrail behind it the entire way to the ground at this point. Or it should if it follows what the others have done. Are you still tracking it, Doss? Oh, yeah. All righty.
Look at this.
So, wow. The next thing, this thing is plummeting toward the ground, and the next thing you will see is the engine ignites for the landing burn. And then right about the moment that it lands, you will hear 3 back-to-back sonic booms as this thing touches down. Here it comes.
Look at that. Look at that.
Ooh.
Wow. I didn't realize how much he actually tracked it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now.
God, where'd it go? Oh my gosh, that thing is moving.
There it is.
That was a wobble.
What was that? Yeah.
That wobbled big time.
Look at that. So that was CRS-16. Man, that was crazy. Doss, he's so good at tracking like this. Just hand tracking. It's amazing. But yeah, so that was that. Let's answer some of your questions. You guys have some good questions. Let's see. Okay. I feel like I need to get caught up here. Sorry. There are ways to caption live stream. See Discord. Okay, I will look into that for sure. Chazzy Mac, how's it going? Am I planning to head to Boca Chica for the 20-kilometer hop? Of course. Of course I will. Michael, you're welcome. And Jacob, thanks for saying hi. The Google Pixel does live captions. Push volume up and click the box with the little line. Nice to know. Can we fund a flat earthers on New Shepard? Yes, I want to do that. I love your video on the biggest booms in spaceflight history. Thank you. While Starship tanks use pressure to increase strength. Okay, yeah, we got to that. Okay, so let's keep going down now. Sorry, I worked backwards. Any info on secondary Starlink payloads? I remember hearing about ham radio or astronomy payloads on some Starlink sats. Is this still the case? Asked Derek. I haven't heard any updates. Let's see. Wait. Let's see what actually happened near Miko. Hold on.
Stage separation and SE events, Miko.
Oh. I have something to show you guys. Trevor Mallman on Twitter posted something. Here, check this out. I think they might have lost an engine. I mean, I really don't want to speculate too much because we don't really know, but based on that, hang on, check this out. I did not catch that. And someone I noticed in chat, we'll get to it in a second, but someone said that they noticed that the speed wasn't decreasing on the
90 seconds.
and we got to get back to Miko. The speed wasn't decreasing on the side because this is second stage telemetry that they're showing. So the speed shouldn't be decreasing over there. That is second stage telemetry. Okay, so watch coming up here on Miko. There's definitely. Check this out. We definitely see what looks like an engine failure, and we have not had an engine failure in flight. If it is, or at least an engine burnout.
On the second stage for these missions from 2 burns down to just 1 single burn. This allows the second stage to provide 70% of the velocity needed for this mission, which allows the first stage to use less fuel and thus making first stage recovery much easier. So today we will again only be doing 1 burn of that second stage engine. Again, coming up in about 10 seconds are those 3 events: Miko, stage separation,
there,
and
look at that.
SES1.
And they even kind of cut away from it too.
Stage separation.
Look at that.
SES1. 10 seconds.
Where's this? Oopsies, playback speed. Quarter.
And coming up in about 10 seconds are those 3
Now I'm confused at where this is at.
Stage separation and SCS1.
Okay, this is too slow. Okay, so it was right before that.
Sorry. We'd be doing one burn of that second stage engine.
I wonder if any of the Cape photographers will see that.
Up in
I wonder if Ryan
about
Chelinsky
10 seconds are those
was able to use
events.
our telescope and actually track it at this point and see. There we go. Interesting.
SCS1. Go. Stage
That's definitely not normal.
SCS.
What was that?
Go. Stage separation and SCS1.
I don't know, guys. Hang on. Yeah, nothing on mission control audio either when they're talking about that. Well, that could be, and then that does bring into question if that happened to be one of the 3 engines that does the landing burn. Did that landing burn? Was that landing burn normal? Let's put the playback speed to normal. So here comes the landing burn, or the entry burn, I mean.
Startup.
Stage 2 continues to follow.
That is when it gets a little silly. A little squirrely.
Stage 1, entry burn shut down.
So that would explain a lot too, because it'd be a lot deeper in the atmosphere if it only has 2 out of its 3 engines doing the entry burn. It would end up, not slowing down enough, ending up in the atmosphere in a totally different place and a different velocity, a lower at engine cutoff, and therefore, the grid fins would have too much bite at that point, and it'd be totally off trajectory too. So, it's true that it doesn't seem like the exhaust cloud changed around too much either. Interesting. Interesting. Oh yeah, good call. There is that. So, man, that makes me wonder. Okay, so real quick, let's look at this exhaust cloud and see if it looks different. Normally it's a pretty straight line.
Stage
Stage 1, entry burn startup.
Here we go. Okay, let's compare that to Starlink, the other SpaceX Starlink mission. The last one here, Starlink a month ago. The other one that happened to fail. I can't believe they've lost 2 now. I mean, 2 in a row. We got so used to them just nailing these that I think we all just kind of thought they were impossible. I need to get YouTube Red on this channel. I have it on my other account. This is annoying. All right, let's look at this entry burn on.
Places where broadband can.
So, get out of here. Okay, let's check this one out. This was a month ago, basically.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn is started.
So it does that, and then it goes to this line normally.
Entry burn has begun.
No?
Fairing vessels have AOS.
That looked about the same. So I can't tell anything from there, but...
We lost the downlink there just for a second, but...
Shoot. Well, let's answer some of your questions here, and we'll wait to see if we get some answers from Elon. Okay, so... Stefan, neat fact, you welded on, of course, I still love you, to stop it from sinking when its previous owner still had it. It took months of work to finish. That's crazy. That's pretty cool that you happened to work on it. Maxi Boy, Next time you meet Elon, can you praise him to put the Falcon Heavy model rocket back in the SpaceX shop website? The product has been discontinued and I want one. I will ask him about that. Actually, I know the person that runs the shop. I should probably ask them about it instead. Tyler, how's it going? We're now going to be waiting for it. Ever now, let's hope for successful launch, landing, and mission success. Mission success, yes. Mission success, absolutely. Landing success, no. And Dalek, I did see the email, but I haven't even opened it up to read it because I've been just head down in the sand, working really hard on trying to finish this video. So I'll be getting back to you at some point. Three-sided coin. Has second stage ever failed? You don't think so? A second stage hasn't necessarily failed on a Falcon 9. Falcon 1 had some second stage issues, including some sloshing on one of the, I think the second flight. So, but for SpaceX, no, they've had a remarkably, unbelievably reliable second stage. Yeah, pretty awesome. You're welcome for the coverage, NNNNN. Three-sided coin. They need to reduce the number of satellites that launch at a time. This is becoming an issue. Also, take a look at liftoff. There was some yawing action to the right off the pad. Really? Right off the pad? I did not see that. Hold on.
Let's go for
Some yawing issue right off the pad. Oh, this is the wrong Starlink mission. Might want to get to today's. I don't know. What do I know?
T-minus 15 seconds.
Okay. Now we're in the right one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
That looks normal. That looks normal. That's its roll. I think that all looked fine. I definitely don't see any yawing issue.
It's T plus 40 seconds, and we've just had liftoff of our Falcon 9 vehicle, taking our Starlink payload to its targeted deployment orbit.
So apparently I said head in the sand instead of nose to the grindstone. Whoops. Same thing. Whatever. Only opposite. Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think at this point we'll have to just wait to hear from the officials, from either Elon or SpaceX about what is it. Take a closer look right at liftoff. Let me try again. Take a closer look right at liftoff. I will.
5, 4, 3.
I didn't see anything that looked abnormal.
1, 0. Ignition.
That was perfectly normal. Liftoff was fine. Yeah, there's nothing there that looked weird. All right, well, so Chassis Mac, I'm not sure all three engines ignited. Didn't look the same shape of burn as previous launches. Usually it's longer and wider, not circular. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see, I think, at this point. Gary, hi, Tim. Any news from Elon on possible temporary superchargers for the manned launch? No, I haven't heard from him yet. I'll keep bugging him, though, because you're right. DM2 is going to get slammed with Teslas. There's going to need to be some mobile superchargers down there. Caver Eric, the HUD didn't show decrease in speed during entry burn. You're right, because, again, the video feed here is of stage 2 telemetry. So we're not seeing first stages telemetry at all. So therefore, we don't see a decrease in velocity. We only see what happens at the second stage. Yeah. Tim, if you listen to the mission audio after entry burn, when we don't have live video, we hear something like terminal guidance. Yeah, that's normal. Terminal guidance would be actually what they say after entry burn. They say terminal guidance maneuver or something. Let's see. Okay, so Vlex26 never saw the drone ship. Maybe something happened. Well, drone ship you don't see for a long time. So drone ship is like, at that point, the vehicle's still, a good 80 kilometers in the air. You're not going from 80 kilometers up. You're not going to be, or maybe 50 kilometers. You're not going to see like a football field sized drone in the water. You don't see a drone ship until much, much later. So something definitely did happen though, but I don't think it has anything to do with visual or being able to see or not see the drone ship. Matthew R., sorry if this is a silly question, but does SpaceX create a vacuum in their payload fairing before sending them into orbit so the pressure equalizes? No, they actually kind of have like passive-ish vents that just allow it to naturally change pressure with ambient airflow. It's a certain amount of drainage per second. They have like, maybe they're not passive, they might actually be quite active vents, but there is a venting system that allows it to maintain near ambient pressure, except for some spikes. Of course, there's going to be times, during like max Q and things where there's high pressure and they just kind of keep it within a certain range and they slowly just bleed out the pressure during ascent. D. Deaver, thanks for becoming a member. Joshua M., how does the engine failure compare to the CRS-1 engine failure? We don't know yet. I don't have enough information about what actually happened at all. Although it was right before MECO, and it looks like, and CRS-1 was a lot earlier on in the ascent. So I'm not exactly sure how that would affect it. Derek SP, interesting how a rocket failure can turn everyone into a certified armchair rocket engineer. Yeah, I know. Phil G, directly after the reentry burn, grid fins have to do a pretty big correction, which is why it gets wonky. Some kind of thrust imbalance. I'm not sure. And Thomas, weren't Amos and CRS fail caused by second stage? True. You're absolutely right. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah. So technically, the only real loss of missions have kind of been because of the second stage, because of the COPV in the second stage on both. You're right. Yeah. So technically, CRS 7 and the Amos mission both had a failure in the second stage, and that look at the flame at the bottom of the booster after entry shutdown. I'll do that one more time, and then I'm going to get out of here because we're just purely into speculation mode here. And I'm sure we'll hear something from Elon here soon.
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
Is there actually a... Okay, let's look at this real quick. Shutdown.
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
Did seem like there are some like rocks getting kicked up at it.
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
Our entry burn has just...
Yeah, my guess is they lost an engine.
Our landing burn.
That definitely looks like there's chunks like flying out of there more than normal.
Our entry burn has just completed. The next step is our landing burn. It's about 90 seconds from now. In terms
Poor
of velocity,
booster. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, thank you, though, for so Thomas and Toxic and Scott. Enjoy the stream. Interested in good post-mortem. Man, that's too bad. That's really too bad. Well, hopefully we'll hear really soon. I already put it up there to see if Elon will comment. Yeah, we'll see, guys. We'll see. I think I'm going to go ahead and tune out. I'm going to get a little montage of the two bits of failure here and see if we can't get Elon to answer and get us some stuff going. So, all right. I think that's going to do it for me, guys. And also, I'm going to make sure I'm going to have stay tuned Patreons. You'll be seeing what I worked on yesterday, today. And then I will be posting the full edit tonight for Patreon members. You guys, this will be your last chance to give feedback before the video about rocket pollution goes live. So if you want to help me make sure I catch any errors before a 55-minute video goes long, be sure and go to patreon.com/everydayastronaut where you'll gain early access to that video. Discord members, get ready for it too. It's obviously, yeah. So Discord members are patrons. So yeah, that. But get ready because I will finally have that out. So, yeah, if hang on, I'm just watching this to make sure I didn't miss anything. But Yeah, and thank you guys always for sticking around and tuning in and saying hi, and just good luck out there. I will be putting out a lot of content for you during this time when I think a lot of people are home right now. But if you want a chance to support, if you want to help support what I do, don't forget to go to everydayastronaut.com/shop. By popular demand, we do have nominal t-shirts now. People were asking for those a lot. We're almost out of, we're making a new version of the full flow stage combustion cycle hoodie that'll be even cooler. These are on sale. Aerospike t-shirts are still on sale because we still do have a huge inventory of those. Like I said, we made an accidental mega run of them, way more than we intended to do. And don't forget, we do runs of shirts. These are always like hand printed, hand sewn patches and things like that. You know, like the actual patches down here are sewn, hand sewn on and everything. These are, yeah, so we had to do large runs of shirts, and we did a little too many of the Aerospike shirts, and now we have a little too many of them. So they are currently in our rapid unscheduled discount section until we clear up some of that inventory. But yeah, go ahead and shop around at everydayastronaut.com/shop if you guys want to help me do what I do and get some awesome swag for yourself. But I think that's going to do it for me, guys. And Jalen says Falcon 9 just self-quarantined itself. Yes, it did. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Yeah, it's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. We'll see you soon. Stand by for lots of extra content. Bye, guys.